Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. Glad to welcome you back to the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and it's time for The Big Picture, taking a national view of Alabama football, and that's presented by Legacy of Hope. You know, saving a life has never been easier. You can register online at legacyofhope.org to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Give the gift of life by becoming an organ donor today. Well, on the SEC Network, especially on Monday nights, we're always enjoying tuning in to Thinking Out Loud, and the host of that show joins us now from her home, Alyssa Lang. Alyssa, it's great to see you. How's everything going?
Everything is going wonderfully. I feel like we're not really halfway through the season. Like for some teams we are, but it feels like we're just right in the thick of it. And I feel like we're just so happy to continue to have college football to talk about. Certainly a lot of really good games this weekend. So I'm blessed. I'm happy. I'm happy to be here with you.
Well, we're certainly fired up for it, Alyssa. And you mentioned kind of the summer of waiting and not being sure what college football would look like in 2020. Are you just glad we're at this point where already we've seen, a team like Alabama have 5 games, and there have been some interruptions here and there, but by and large, we're figuring out how to play during this pandemic?
Yeah, I think it's been a relief in so many ways. I mean, obviously there's been hiccups, and I think that was anticipated by everybody involved, but just really getting to see, the kind of plan that the SEC put in place and the protocols and the way each school is going about making sure that these guys are as safe and healthy as possible. You can really see it translate into these guys just being so happy to be out there every single week. And I think that's really what it's all about, as a fan of the game and a fan of college football who loves to sit at home and watch everybody play. You love to know that these guys are excited to be out there and that these guys are happy to be out there. So that makes me happy. Certainly, I know it makes a lot of people happy, and I have a lot of confidence that we're going to crown a national champion by the end of the season, certainly an SEC champion, and Alabama is in both of those conversations for sure.
Yeah, the Crimson Tide certainly are, and that leads into my next question. You've been able to see this team a little bit. Just what impresses you about Alabama this year?
I mean, what doesn't impress me about Alabama, honestly? I think the Tennessee game this past weekend really put a stamp on my confidence level for this team. We didn't really know exactly what we were going to be working with coming into the season, not only because Mac Jones hadn't started as many games as we were used to seeing Tua Tagovailoa go out there and dominate everybody last year, but there were some guys coming back off of injury. Dylan Moses, what was the defense going to look like? And I think through the first couple of weeks, it was like, okay, Alabama's back. They looked dominant, but they didn't play anybody really until Georgia that we knew, okay, where's this team going to fall as far as the scale of how good they are in the SEC? And after that Georgia game, there was no doubt in my mind that it's Alabama right now and everybody else. And that's what we're used to seeing over the last couple of years, minus in 2019, of course, with LSU being just so good. So I've been so impressed by, obviously, the offense, the kind of numbers that they've put up week in and week out. I was looking through all their games just yesterday, I think, and they've put at least 40 on everybody except for Mizzou. And that's just impressive to do in the SEC in general. Lump in the fact that we had a limited preseason, that these guys didn't have summer or spring ball. And I think that's probably what's impressed me the most about Alabama is you really can't tell. There's a lot of other teams that you can see, communication issues or some gaps on a certain position group or something that just doesn't seem to gel. And you can kind of, I think, chalk that up to maybe a lack of preseason. And these guys haven't had a ton of reps, but Alabama, they've just kept chugging. And you really can't tell. At least I haven't been able to. And I certainly expect them to be competing for a national championship here in a few months.
Well, the Crimson Tide this week have Mississippi State and then a bye week, and then after that LSU. And I think some people maybe early in the season thought, well, that Alabama-LSU game may not be the same as what it typically is, and who knows what could happen in Baton Rouge. But are you at least encouraged that maybe LSU's starting to turn a corner a little bit and may have some momentum going into that game?
Yeah, absolutely. I think going into this year, we all sort of knew what LSU was going to be. And when I say that, I mean we knew they weren't going to be 2019. Nobody can rebound from losing that much talent and come back and win the SEC and win a national championship. They just lost so much across the board. What I wasn't expecting to see was an LSU team coming out looking disorganized, at times not energetic for the first couple of games. And what I saw against South Carolina was completely different. I mean, they just looked excited to be out there. And that was the first time that I really felt from start to finish I saw that kind of energy from that LSU team. So I know Alabama fans probably hate to hear this, but when LSU is good, it's good for the conference, it's good for college football. And a good LSU team going up against a really good Alabama team is something that really excites me. So it doesn't matter really how good or bad you are, in my opinion. Everybody gets up to play a team like Bama because they're on upset alert. Let's go. So I'm expecting that to be a really good game.
Well, that's coming up in a few weeks, and then everyone here around the state all year round talks about the Iron Bowl, and there's been so much attention on what Auburn has been, kind of been given in some of these games that they've been able to win. Just what do you make of the Auburn Tigers, where they stand at this point?
Yeah, they've been obviously extremely inconsistent, and certainly to watch. The first couple of games, you're trying to figure out what is it exactly that's going wrong with this team. It didn't really seem like Bo Nix had the kind of grip on the offense that you would have expected him to have here in his sophomore season. I think we did see that a little bit more this past weekend. I think Bo Nix made a lot less self-inflicted mistakes that we've seen through the first couple of games of the season. And again, I think Auburn is a team that obviously they lost a lot on defense, especially on the defensive front last year with Derek Brown and Marlon Davidson. And I think Auburn is a team that has suffered from not having those preseason reps and from not having that experience and that extra practice that you would get in the spring and the summer. So again, I feel like week by week they have improved little by little. I don't think this is a team that's going to be at the top of the SEC West this year. I think they need a little bit more help, a little bit more experience, a little bit more pieces, certainly on each side of the ball. But I do like that I've seen some improvement week to week. And again, you mentioned the craziness at the end of a couple of their games, and I certainly can't blame the guys for that. They didn't do anything to sway anybody either way, but it's certainly been an interesting watch, those two games that ended that way.
Interesting is a good word, and I think entertaining may be the best word to describe having Lane Kiffin back in the SEC. Just what have you made of this season that he's had so far? And also Mike Leach as well. I mean, just what entertainment we're getting from both of those guys being in the Magnolia State now.
So when we started our first episode of Thinking Out Loud this year, we were having our production meeting, and I don't even remember what it was that they both said that week, but it was whatever their press conference going into their opening game, and we were like, man, we are just so excited for the Egg Bowl already. So every Monday we have an Egg Bowl timer, and I believe this past Monday it was 33 days away from the Egg Bowl or something like that. So we've been counting down to it because it's just going to be fireworks when we get those two guys in a game day atmosphere. But it's been fun. Lane Kiffin, I think, is a guy that really brings some personality to Twitter, and that's very important in 2020, obviously. And I think the thing that I've taken the most from is when you look at Kiffin's tweets and you read the replies, and I'm a reply reader, like I'll go read the replies to other people's tweets. You see fans from all schools commenting like, Coach, I hate Ole Miss, but this is funny, or whatever it is. And I think that's such a cool thing to be able to have in the SEC, certainly in a place like Twitter where there's a lot of insults flying back and forth. So Lane Kiffin's been fun, and obviously Mike Leach, we knew what he was bringing as well. That week 1 game for Mississippi State was electric. I just hope that we can see that at some point throughout the rest of the season, and that the air raid doesn't just exist in week 1. But we will see. It's Mike Leach. You never know.
You certainly never know. And you mentioned your show, Thinking Out Loud, and it's a little bit different Thinking Out Loud this year. We had seen Greg McElroy, Marcus Spears, and you do such a great job before. But what can you tell us about what's unique about the show this year? It's been a lot of fun to watch you along with Spencer, Brandon, and Richard.
Yeah, it's been so great. Those guys are awesome. And I will say, a lot of people watch at home and they're like, this is so different. You guys are all in different places. And I'm so proud of the way that they've been able to jump into this experience. Their first time doing this show, working for SEC Network, and they have just embraced the virtual, separate cameras, and that's not an easy thing to do. So they've been awesome. It's been so unique though to have the different perspectives. Spencer is such a big Twitter and social media personality, and he's one of the funniest people I think that exists in the world of Twitter.com. Richard brings such an element of being able to break down film and really give you an inside look as to why a play broke down or what's happening. And then of course, Brandon brings the player perspective. He was a star at Georgia. He knows what it's like to play in this conference. He knows what it's like to say something and then have to back it up, certainly when we're talking about 14 SEC schools. So it's a really great, I think, combination of perspectives, and we have a lot of fun too.
Well, you got to be really proud of the show. You mentioned not all of you can be in the same place at one time, and that's been the case too with games. And we've seen announcers doing games from their home or on site kind of in a limited way. Just how proud of you of ESPN and the family networks they have being able to bring college football these games in really unusual circumstances.
Yeah, it's been incredible to watch. I got to do one game week 1, and just seeing the kind of preparation and thought that's gone into making sure we have, crossed our T's and dotted our I's in every way that makes the viewer feel like this is normal. And I know I certainly felt that when I was on the sidelines for South Carolina, Tennessee. There were moments where I looked up into the stands and I had to remind myself, oh yeah, the stands aren't full. It felt normal. And sitting at home watching these games on a Saturday and getting to watch my coworkers, Taylor Zarzer and Matt Stinchcomb, for example, sitting at home broadcasting a game, they're getting just as excited in their living room talking about this as they would be in the booth. So everybody's done an incredible job, top to bottom. It's been fun. It's been fun to watch some of the technical difficulties too, like when Tom Hart's power went out a couple weeks ago during his game. But such is 2020. I think everyone's done a great job.
Well, everyone with the SEC Network and the ESPN family networks have done such a great job, and you're at the top of the list, Alyssa. Just thank you for some time today here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and I hope we can join you again down the road. But thank you again.
Thanks, Roger.
All right, that was Alyssa Lang, and thank you for watching the Crimson Tide Sports Network.